Welcome to Two Guys, Two Questions, a chaotic, unscripted podcast.
Yeah, surprise questions with no prep.
I'm Ryan Keaton, a real estate guy who's happiest with an ocean view.
And I'm Jarrod Greer, a retro toy fanatic / loather who may or may not have a Batman cape within arm's reach right now.
You definitely do.
You don't know that.
From alligators to vibrators, superheroes to existential crisis, we cover it all.
Plus, every month we'll bring in a mystery guest and try to keep things extra unpredictable.
So if you like spontaneous conversations, French bulldogs stealing the show, and two guys who think they're funnier than they probably are, then you're in the right place.
Yep. Well, enough of this. Let's do this. Two Guys, Two Questions starts now.
What was the first one?
The harp.
Yeah. It's our PSA.
Real epiphany going on here. So, Ryan, what are you pissed off about today? You come in here talking about needing to have a public service announcement. Well, that has to mean you're pissed off about something.
I was just thinking as I was driving over here, so maybe this is going to be a new segment that we both can use, but
okay.
I was trying to decide if it was a public service announcement or a rant, so I've decided it's a public service rant.
Okay.
So, and it's got to do about people that slow walkers, either in a store or slow drivers.
Yep.
The question is fucking why?
Yeah.
Why?
Slow walkers piss me off way worse than slow drivers.
I mean, I get that sometimes people have got to walk slow or whatever, but you know, what has happened to common courtesy?
If you're pretty able-bodied and you're walking slow in the and also in the middle of the aisle, people piss me off walking in the middle of the aisle in the grocery store with their cart, so you can't go around to either side, and they're walking slow. And they're reading the fucking ingredients on every box of mac and cheese with while their cart's sitting in the middle of the fucking aisle. Yep, no common courtesy.
So that's what I felt like that we could do on this in regards to, like I said, and driving in the slow lane.
Yeah.
Or driving in the fast lane. And just cruising along with traffic. And, I honestly believe everybody should be able to travel, walk, do your own thing, but just be aware.
Yeah.
So, what I did was I tried to think of a few things to help our people out there so they can find out if they are the slow walker and they're just not aware.
We should call this segment, Are You the Asshole?
So, big thing is, keep in mind, we can all be guilty of this to some degree, but, if you've never realized as you were walking along and never, immediately been mortified or apologized for, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't see you there, let me get out of the way. If you've never done that, you're the asshole. You're the slow walker.
Spatial awareness. It never ceases to amaze me at the comic convention. So at the convention center we use, there's two sets of escalators. You go down from 3 to 2. There's a landing on 2, and then another set of escalators immediately down to 1. Okay, it's a straight line shot from 3 to floor 1. But people will stand on the landing of level 2, right in the direct path of both escalators, and just stand there and talk, shoot shit, take pictures. Anyway. People will stand there on the fucking escalators or in the pathway of the escalators, and it becomes an actual real safety hazard because as the crowd picks up, eventually somebody comes down the escalator and has nowhere to go, and then that starts a real chain reaction up the. And I've not seen it at my own convention, but I have seen it happen. It turns into a real shit show.
Wow,
but that. It's same thing applies. Just spatial awareness. Know that you're standing in somebody else's fucking way.
Yeah, just being aware.
Yeah.
So I've got a couple more here because I want to help our people.
Okay.
I want to help the listeners.
Preach, brother.
So if the same person passes you in an aisle multiple times, and there has been a big gap of time between when you last seen that person and you see them again, you've probably got a problem. Yeah. You're probably it.
Yeah. You just got lapped.
Yes.
I guess that's what that is. Yeah. Yeah.
So, and in regards to driving, if you have more than 2 cars behind you stalling traffic, and then that starts to pile up, again, you're the problem.
What's your take on tractors?
I fucking hate them with everything inside of me.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because those people, for the most part, I won't say 100% because a lot of times you'll see them, they'll try to get over or they'll look and they'll wave you around. But a lot of times those people really enjoy the fact that they have 15 to 20 cars behind them.
Yeah, yeah. And you know what? I guess it's a thing all over the country, but, you know, we're in Eastern Kentucky. It's farm country. There's people on tractors everywhere around here. Matter of fact, one of the things that I came to know when I was about 13 is you didn't need a driver's license to drive a tractor in Kentucky on the road. So, yeah, you know, working tobacco fields, we drive the tractors around everywhere.
You can get a DUI on a tractor.
You can, and on a horse. It's a fact. You can get a DUI on a horse.
I actually, whenever I was
seen it happen.
I was a deputy jailer in college.
I remember that, yeah.
And we actually had somebody come in that got a DUI on a bicycle.
Any attempt to restrict drinking and driving here is viewed by some as downright undemocratic.
It's kind of getting common is when a fella can't put in a hard day's work, put in 11, 12 hours a day, and then get in your truck and at least drink 1 or 2 beers.
They're making it laws where you can't drink when you want to. You have to wear a seatbelt when you're driving. And pretty soon we're going to be communist country.
So it is possible. In fairness, they had, so, you know, I'm usually, if they aren't causing havoc and they're just riding, you know, let them go. But this person had went through a drive-through, gotten food through the drive-through on their bicycle, and then was weaving in and out of traffic and doing all. They earned their BUI.
What happened with your law enforcement career? Why didn't that pan out? You were jailer for a minute.
Well, that was never a career. That was
but you know,
that was a part-time job that I kind of lucked into. Knew the right people that got me that job. So it was just a good. Well, it wasn't a great job because I worked freaking midnight to 7, 5 days a week, and then went to class right after I got out of.
But you get to hang out with all the drunks in the drunk tank.
Yeah. It was very interesting. It was there was a lot of interesting characters, and we were a regional facility, regional state facility, so there were times where we had murderers and things like that there. So there was a couple different times where I saw some people that, you know, I was like, I don't want to be left anywhere near to being alone.
Yeah. Well, this is this is telling, I guess, of my age group and where I'm from. But so when I was in high school, we were like one of the first school shootings. Couldn't spit that out. Yeah, and I saw that in the news today. Actually, there was a school shooting today. But anyway, we were one of the first ones. And the kid that did the shooting at our school was in the Round County Jail where you worked there for a long time. They held him there because I guess his trial lasted for several years or whatever. But he was, for whatever reason, they maintained him in that facility. So. So yeah, I guess they had all kinds of weird people in there.
So I'll give 2 more final things for that. You know, if you're driving and there's 2 lanes of traffic, like an interstate, and you think both lanes are just for cruising, and you don't need other people to be able to pass, you're part of the problem.
Yeah. Yeah, he's he's gone now. But you and I had a mutual friend, Oscar, that in 1995, he was driving me home. I was drunk. He was driving me home in my own car from Huntington, and he got a ticket at 3:00 in the morning for driving in the left lane of the interstate. Because there was no other cars around anywhere, and he was driving from Huntington back to where we were in the left lane. And in Kentucky, I guess you're not legally allowed to travel in the left lane. It's only for passing. Mm-hmm. So anyway, they wrote Oscar's from California. He's used to having 6 lanes. It didn't make a shit what lane you were in. Yes. But anyway, he was driving the left lane 3 a.m. They pulled us over. They just knew they were going to take him to jail for being drunk, but he was stone cold sober, so they just wrote him a ticket for driving in the left lane. But that, I guess, you know, if there had been other cars around, he would have been the fucking asshole. Yeah. But 3 a.m, not so much.
You'd figure that one would slide a little bit.
Yeah.
They were probably just looking for a reason to pull him over.
They were just fucking 2 dumbass college kids. 3 o'clock in the morning in a Corvette.
Yeah. Tristan told me that she got pulled over the other night, and it was the same thing. The cop pulled her over, and he was like, "Do you know what you did?" And she's like, "No, I don't.
Nope.
Got cruise control. Everything's good." And he's like, Well, I just thought you were cruising a little too close to the left side of your lane.
Yeah. Bumped the center line.
So, and then
or
last one is
line.
if somebody says excuse me more than twice, that's the universe trying to whisper to you to tell you to go ahead and maybe either speed up or, again, spatial awareness.
Yeah. Who pissed you off today, Ryan? Who hurt you today?
Nobody hurt me.
You came in with a lengthy laundry list of people that have pissed you off this week, and I'm just...
No, it's not individual people. It's just in general. I feel like that needs to be said. I think it was like I said, a PSR. I think we got a little PSR chime.
Oh, yeah. We got this thing here. Did we do? Yeah. It's a total epiphany.
There you go. That's what I'm here for. Is I just wanted to introduce it. I mean, do you disagree with anything that I said, or do you feel like I'm being too harsh? Where's your head at?
No. I just I think you're 100% on track. I do. I just feel like this is an acute thing. I feel like somebody's pissed you off this week about it.
No, the sad thing is,
I don't feel like this just builds up over time.
And unfortunately, it does.
You walked in my door with this shit to get off your chest.
I did. I was locked and loaded. There wasn't anything specific that happened this day. It just felt like the right time.
Okay.
Felt like it'd be a good podcast discussion to help the people.
Okay. Well, listen, I got a question for you, and it's going to fall right into this, Florida.
Well, that's interesting.
I had two possibilities, but given this conversation, I'm just gonna go with this one. And so I hate to dig too much at your profession, but it's an obvious thing that comes out a lot. So tell me, as a realtor, what are 3 things that you wish everybody else knew that fucking nobody does? Or 3 things that people think about you as a real estate agent that are absolutely not true?
Well,
I mean, what do you have to teach people? What do you have to roll your fucking eyes every time somebody says, well, don't you get paid in jelly beans for this? Or, whatever.
Yeah. I think one of the big things that comes up a lot is people not understanding why we would need to know pre-approvals, why they would need a pre-approval before they go look at a property. And, to help people understand the reason that is not because I'm lazy and I don't want to go show you a property or I don't think you have the money. A lot of times the sellers at this point don't want you in their house unless you prove to do it. The other side of that is it's really trying to help the client because, the client may be looking and going, what, gosh, everything I want is in a $200,000 house.
Yeah.
And they go and they get approved and they can afford that $200,000 house. But they're like, holy crap, I don't like the $200,000 payment. I need something that's a $175,000. Well, guess what? I'm never going to deliver you a $200,000 house that you've went through and you loved and you thought was the best thing ever for $175,000. That just doesn't, that life doesn't exist. So a lot of times people think that we're just doing that to be difficult. And from my perspective, I'm doing it to really, truly try to help the person.
Yeah, I can tell you from my own side of that, at least looking at commercial real estate, an actual pre-approval is not something that my bank is usually like.
Well, commercial's entirely different.
To give me like they'll always say, well, it'll depend on the property and does the property cash flow and all these fucking things. So it's very hard for them to, at least on commercial, for them to just say, oh yeah, go shopping,
Yeah, but I think that's the thing is that a commercial client. It's something. It's an entirely. You can't put residential and commercial in the same bucket. So somebody buying a commercial property usually is going to be much more educated in that particular aspect. Not a more educated individual, but just more in line and should know their finances better. Yeah. They understand what they can and they can't do.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, when I'm looking at a place, I pretty well know what I can and can't afford, or what I can and can't get financed for. But
yeah. And it makes sense if we got to get in the weeds. If if you're buying a business to where there's some income being produced off of that and those kind of things, I understand that.
We need a dog cam now. The dogs have got very comfortable. We got them their own office chairs.
One set's really, really good.
The
other one
there
just,
they be.
How bad can I be?
Yeah, we got them their own chairs in here, and they mostly they're pretty good kids. Anyway, so what else? What else do you wish everybody knew?
I wish everybody knew the importance of doing inspections.
Okay.
And why that is there. So the inspections, the inspections are there to protect the buyer, protect the client, give them an opportunity to do their due diligence and get that information. What happens a lot of times, like, well, I don't want to spend that money. I'll just go off that. And that's fine. But then you can't get upset on the other side of that. Whenever you close on the house, you go in there and then the house is about to burn down.
Yeah.
Because you passed and they're like, well, the seller lied. And the thing is that for the most part, sellers are pretty daggone honest with what they know. But even if you live somewhere in day to day, you can't know what's going on inside the walls, or there may be things that you miss. And, I think we may have talked about this before, but, I had recently just went through my house. I think it's maybe telling a client, but I recently went through my house and I was like, okay, I want to look at this because I've never done this before. I want to look at this house as though I'm a realtor or I'm helping a client. And walked through and was like, oh my God, nothing major, but just the amount of things that you just kind of don't pay attention to, or you see, okay, that needs to be done, but I'll get to it next week. And then next week turns into like 3 years later.
Well, it's the old adage of mechanics drive shitty cars and all, all that sort of thing. I used to work on computers, but I'd usually have a computer that was laying in pieces on the desk, or whatever. I think that's kind of the same with every profession, because you look at houses all fucking day long. You don't want to go home and look at yours.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Yep. It's just the way it is, sort of. I think knowing what to disclose as a seller is important. Like, I guess you got a list of disclosures that covers most of the things, but
and
I think most people try to be honest with that.
I do too. I think most people be honest, and I think if you explain exactly what they're supposed to do there and why it's important to just err on the side of being overly honest, because then you have less that could potentially come back to you on it. Yeah. So that to me is always important. But like I said, and too, with seller's disclosures, I'm not supposed to help you fill those out. Right. I can explain what the form is and differentiate between items on there, but I'm not supposed to encourage or discourage you from putting anything on there, because then now I'm opening myself up to liability and, making determinations on things that I don't know.
Yeah, that makes sense. Something that I just thought of, how many people try to put a cash down payment down on their house? You ever had anybody try to say, well, I got that in the shoebox, or get right to the closing table and then walk in and lay $50,000 cash on the table or whatever?
That's not going to happen, because I wouldn't allow it to happen.
Right.
So, but yeah, there's a decent amount of the population that have cash, and
this goes back to our cash conversation.
Yep. They don't understand you can't buy a house with cash. Yeah. Unless I go up to...
You can buy a car with cash.
Well,
they don't fucking like it, but you can do it.
Well, you can buy a house with cash, but the thing is it's going to...
I got you.
We're going to have to, it's going to be a struggle, because it's not going to be necessarily... And if they're trying to use a cash for a down payment, so we actually got a lending institution, and this isn't Ryan Keaton, this isn't the Kentucky Real Estate Commission or whatever, the bank is going to make sure that you have to source that, which means it's got to be bank or something to that effect. So you have to put that in there and let it do what's called seasoning. So that way they didn't think, well, you just went out and done a drug deal, or just went out and done something illegal. I actually had a gentleman one time that super good old boy. He was fantastic dude, had a great job, and he always liked for me to ride with him. A lot of clients, we just meet at the house and do stuff, and he was like, let me pick you up and ride. So that's what we would do. And at one point, we were looking at a house, and we talked about it. He's like, I don't want to do financing. I got cash. And I was like, all right, good enough. So we're driving, and he shoves me over a piece of paper. What's his bank statement? He's like, will that be good enough? Or no, I'm sorry. He passed me over his his contract of what he made at the job that he was at, and it would show things. And then he was like, he had, I don't know, $450,000 or whatever it was. So he wanted
good enough to go get a loan, I guess.
Well, and that's the thing, is that he wanted to be able to, I guess what he was going to put down was about $75,000 or $100,000. So it was a good chunk of change because he didn't want his payments up at a certain amount. And then what happened was that I was like, well, dude, we're going to have a proof of funds, which means just shoot me a copy of your bank statement or, whatever you want to do. He sends me a picture, and I thought he was joking. So he sent me a picture of a safe with money. And I just responded back, LOL. I was like, yeah, man, I had no doubt you had
Proof
the money.
of funds.
And I was trying to do it. And he was like, oh, I'm sorry, man. So he goes and he blacks out him putting the code in for the safe. And then he videos himself opening the safe, turns the camera around to himself to say, hey, look, it's me. There's that. And I'm like,
proof of funds.
Yeah, sorry, but that bank's not going to say no go. So that was challenging for him because he didn't have any bank accounts. Yeah. He would get his check from his place of employment. He would go somewhere, cash it, pay whatever fee he had to cash for not being a banker there, and then he would take the money and put it in his safe.
Yep. And that's not that uncommon. I mean, it is uncommon. It's getting more and more uncommon. But, growing up, I know several people that operated that way. We had an old guy on their job site one time that they called from the office one time and said, go tell him he needs to go cash his checks. Because he had 5 or 6 paychecks in a fucking drawer. He's like, well, I don't need the money. I'll cash them when I need it. No, you can't just just let them hang forever. It's weird. And maybe that's a strange dichotomy of Eastern Kentucky. It's like, I guess, poor people are poor, and people that manage their money.
Fairness, this guy was not from Eastern Kentucky.
Oh, okay. Well,
he was in Eastern Kentucky for the time frame, but he had moved here for a job. But this guy was from originally, I think, North Carolina or something like that.
I was just going to say, people that have done well for themselves, lots of times around here don't trust banks and stuff.
Yeah.
The old under the mattress theory. If I ever die, take a metal detector, go through my yard, and if you find aluminum foil, keep digging. I had a guy tell me that one time. Yep. Don't stop digging when you find the garbage.
It's a diversion.
It's a diversion, yeah. Anyway. All right, is there anything else that people should know that they seemingly don't, from your perspective?
I find that for the most part, and I guess it depends on at what point. So like first-time home buyers, I absolutely love. I built my entire business on it. Yeah. A lot of people hate that, but my entire business model was built on I love educating people and talking to them. So first-time home buyers is the perfect opportunity to help them understand why those things are. So a lot of times they're crazy over the top appreciative because there's not they don't quite understand how it works. And, one of the things that I wish I had known this whenever I was first starting out, and it's now one of the things that I teach all of my people that are coming, is some tricks of how to pay off your mortgage faster without truly having what in your head is more money out of pocket. So a lot of times in my market anyway, with first-time home buyers, a lot of times they're getting a paycheck every 2 weeks. Yep. That's their life. They're a paycheck person. So what I talk to them about is splitting that payment up over 2 payments. So you get paid every 2 weeks. It's going to be pretty much the same thing, and then split up. So if you have $1,000 payment, you pay $500 on the second, on the 15th, and $500 on the first, or something to that effect. And what that does inevitably is that forces you to pay 1 extra payment a year. Yep. That takes that down to about 23 or 24 years on a 30-year mortgage. If you put all that additional money towards principal with just how everything works. So, and then there's some other tricks, like, a lot of times those same people get a get a income tax refund check.
Yeah.
So usually that's $4,000 or $5,000. The person maybe has $1,000 a month payment. We'll take $1,000. What do we do? What do most people do? I haven't had a refund check in years, so I don't know. But most times, you just take it and blow it, or you go get a new toy or something, or do whatever. Still do that, but take $1,000 of that and put it all towards principal. And if you did just those two things, which isn't really extra money coming out of your pocket,
save yourself 10 years.
Yep, exactly. So it's things like that, that you wish every single person knew. I try to make sure they know it whenever, I'm working with them, to just give them the opportunity to at least have that financial education, and then, they can take and do with it what they want. And, I actually had somebody that I sold a house to, God, I guess it's been about 9 years ago, that I'd talked to about that. And then they just, had sent me a random message, because I still keep up with most of my clients. They sent me a random message. They're like, holy crap, I looked, and my schedule shows that I've actually, as far as my equity in the house, was almost like they'd been there for 16 years versus 9, by doing some of those things. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah, you get to help people along the way. I don't know. Most people, I think, self-included, you tell yourself all those tricks, but it's hard to make yourself do them in practice. Especially, you're probably pretty good at this, but I'm not. I try to trick myself a lot. I try to fuck with my own brain a lot, but usually I'm then 3 days later smart enough to know that, that was just me fucking with myself. You don't really have to do that.
But I can challenge you.
It's like when you set your alarm clock a half hour early. Yeah. Or set your clock a half hour early.
Yeah.
Yeah. You could challenge me what?
I could challenge you that maybe you're fucking with yourself by the 3 days after by saying, I was just fucking myself by doing that part right there. Going back to the Dallas conversation, it's just it's the story you tell yourself.
And that's 100% valid, I guess. Thank you, Dallas.
Damn recalls.
Yeah, son of a bitch. All right, what you got for me?
My question is, if you didn't have to sleep.
Oh, God.
And your body had this weird chemical balance, or just the universe changed, you got bit by a cool spider, whatever the hell it is, you didn't have to sleep, but your body always felt fully rested.
Yep.
So you don't have to worry about that. What would you do with the additional 8 hours?
Oh, shit. The short answer is I would probably start 71 more projects, of which I would only be able to really devote enough of my time to get 40 of them done, even at that. I don't know. I am a chronic overcommitter, I think. So if I had more hours to commit, I would just worse overcommit, maybe. I don't know. But the much longer answer is, I don't know. I'm stretched mentally pretty thin most of the time. I'm all over the fucking board. Entrepreneurial ADD, I guess, is the best term for that, because I love starting businesses and adventures or whatever, and I get all these fucking ideas, and I say, "Oh yeah, let's do that." But I'm a horrible follow through guy, So I would love to say that I would just commit the actual workload to the things I already do if I have that, but I know myself better than that. You looking for? I guess how deep in the weeds are we here? Are you looking for an actual adventure I'd like to start, or are you looking for just a
I'm
general
looking
knowledge?
that you just gained 56 hours a week.
Damn. Somebody on the internet says this a lot, and I can't even tell you who it is, but I've heard it from some of the TikToks and shit. And I tell my kids this: if you're sleeping 8 hours a day, you have enough time to start another business. Because you really only need about 4 or so.
Okay, so let's just randomly call it 5 hours. So you got 60 extra hours a day.
like I said, the short answer is I'm starting another business, but I'm not really sure what it would be. Gosh, my hobbies always intrude into my businesses, so it's like whatever I'm into in the moment that this magic stuff was granted to me. You've probably heard me say this before, but if I was into model cars, I'd have a model car store next week. It's just the natural progression for me to start another store or another business or another angle or something. Gosh, I might sit here and play with this stupid thing all day. I don't know. Ryan, that's a hard question. It really is. Man. Some days the depression in me says I just lay around with the dogs.
Let's just say it's 8 hours.
I'm not wired like that. I'm not. If I don't know.
So let me tweak this then, since you're
struggling
with it a little bit.
I'm struggling, dude. That's such a tough question.
Yeah. So with those hours, 8, 5, whatever the hell you want to call them, you get granted those additional hours, but you are not allowed to do anything business-wise.
Oh, fuck. Yeah.
And you cannot turn whatever you decide to do within that into a business.
Yeah, I'm probably fucking off in the woods. I'm going out and, some people hunt deer, some people hunt turkey. I hunt snakes. Yeah. I don't, and not to kill snakes either. We go out and flip rocks and look at the snakes under them and take pictures and go, oh, that's cool. And that's the kind of shit I'm into. Outdoors, caving. I love playing in a creek. I was out at Carter Cave State Park the other day. Just drove through the park randomly, just to see what hadn't been out there in a long time, and got out and was walking along a creek, and Amanda went with me. But anyway, we were walking there, and I said, I think a creek is probably what got me into reptiles and stuff, because somewhere along the way, and I know exactly who it was. My stepmother's brother took me out in a creek one day and flipped over a rock, and there was a frog under it. And it was like, here, you can kill time looking for frogs and crawdads, or whatever. Yeah. And that was the start of that shit for me, flipping rocks and all that. So if I'm not allowed to do anything business related, I'm just out in the woods fucking around, flipping rocks, seeing what's under them.
Yep.
A very wise man told me one time you have to flip a lot of rocks to find a snake. So, and that logic applies to everything.
Yeah.
But it's so true. And sometimes when you find the snake, it's a really good snake, and sometimes it's a really piece of shit snake. We call them trash snakes.
Trash snakes.
Yeah, garter snakes, ringnecks, things like that. Nobody gives a fuck about those.
Somebody gives a lot of fuck about those. I ain't wanting to see no snakes myself unless they're in a cage.
Yeah, but anyway, most snake guys, most self-respecting snake guys don't go out for little ground-dwelling ringneck snakes and that sort of thing.
They want something that can kill them.
Everybody's looking for something cool. I guess I didn't know you were afraid. Or you're not afraid of snakes, are you? Or do you? Okay, my dad has an irrational, and he's a smart man. My dad's a very smart man, and he will tell you he has an irrational fear of snakes. Like, he knows that snake there is not going to hurt him, but he's still afraid of it for whatever reason. And lots of people have irrational fears of all kinds of random shit. My wife of 20 years, and we kept hundreds of animals in the house from time to time, reptiles, everything in the world. She's afraid of spiders. I kind of stayed away from the tarantula side of the critter trade for 20 years because Jamie didn't like spiders. And she knew that was irrational because she'd seen everybody in the world. But are you afraid of snakes, or are you just healthy respect?
Healthy respect.
Yeah.
In other words, if I see a snake crawling out there, I'm probably going to go, first reaction's going to be to jump, and I'm like, okay, that's not cool. But I mean, I've held boas and different things like that is not necessarily poisonous. I can handle that, but I mean, I probably have more of an unhealthy just disgust for like mice.
Yeah.
I don't like mice, and I don't like rats.
You know what's funny is wild mice and rats freak me out. I don't want any part of that shit.
Yep.
But like pet rats, domesticated rats, whatever. Domesticated is a stretch, but anyway, Norwegian rats in the pet trade. I really like them. I dig them. If you're gonna have a small pet animal, a rat is pretty high up there on the list of smart and clean and like just trainable all the way around. Rats are where it's at, small animal wise. One thing I'll tell you as far as healthy respect goes, you probably know this. 1996, I was bitten by a venomous snake. It's called a Pope's tree viper. I don't even think they're called that anymore. I think they've changed the common name even. But anyway, fucked me up pretty good. Even though lots of people, it's a pretty mild venom, but it fucked me up pretty good. And since then,
didn't they have to use like multiple vials of rattlesnake venom?
Yeah, I ended up getting
because I remember all of that.
I think it was. They gave me a polyvalent rattlesnake antivenom because at the time, they didn't know what the fuck to do. I'm a dumbass kid in Eastern Kentucky. You go to a hospital and tell them you were bitten by some Malaysian fucking tree viper. They don't quite know what to do. Anyway, they gave me rattlesnake antivenom. Kind of, the antivenom fucked me up as bad as the bite did. But one thing I walked away from that saying is that if you're thinking about keeping venomous snakes, you should have to stand and get kicked in the dick by a 10-year-old girl. So you have some respect for things that are smaller than you. Because, as a dumb kid, 20 years old, no respect for the animals whatsoever. And just, you think you're going to live forever. And then you realize that thing will fuck you up, man.
Yeah.
So that I did learn a whole lot of respect for animals at that point. Bees fuck people up. Bees kill people every year.
Yep.
Snakes fuck them up real bad. But to answer your question directly, if I have 5 hours of time every day that I'm not allowed to work or I'm not allowed to invest in a business, I'm going to be out in the woods flipping rocks looking for critters and taking pictures of critters. So that's me in a nutshell.
Well, mine was, for me, I would be, one of the things night times whenever my brain works best, for whatever reason, even there's times whenever, traveling or whatever, I will stay up 24 hours, 48 hours.
Oh shit.
I think my longest is probably 72 hours. And, I like that time frame. It's just things are slower. You're getting less phone calls. There's no text messages. So, I was thinking that I would probably use that time to maybe do some work and then I would be able to start out earlier in the morning, have the day done by like 11 or 12, besides some appointments, and then just enjoy the hell out of that additional time. Same thing with either being out in the woods, being out on the boat, traveling more, spending more time with my family, having an opportunity to because my kids, all but one now, live away from here. Bryce is close. The closest.
Do you have a boat?
Yep.
You did? Okay.
I was going to say we'd have to figure out some logistics, but I thought it'd be cool because for one thing, that talking about your journey with not wanting to turn it off, and it's like, I got time. Good thing is, if we go out on that boat, we don't have any cell phone signal.
Yeah, I get that for sure.
And we can pull up and we can go turn some rocks. And
there are times I think I'd really like to have a boat, but I remember from my childhood, my dad always had a boat. And he would buy and sell them all the time because he would want a boat. He'd buy one. He'd spend 2 weeks cleaning on it, getting it all ready for the water stuff. You haul it to the lake. You spend a day on the fucking lake. Then you haul it back home and spend 2 weeks cleaning the fucking thing again. Or at least that's the way my dad worked.
Yep.
So it seemed like it was forever working, dragging the boat to the lake. And maybe it'd be better if you kept it on a lake somewhere in a slip.
Whenever I got this, the only reason I bought the boat is because I was able to get a slip at the lake, so it stays there.
You at Grayson Lake?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, cool.
And it stays there. So, it is literally sitting there at all times. And, the last summer, I think was the first summer that we had it, at least out there at the lake. And it was, it was nothing to drive out there. It's 25, 30 minutes. We'd drive out there at 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, stay for 3 hours, drive home. All I got to do is park the boat and cover it up and move on. So I wouldn't use it if I had to haul it out there, haul it back every single time. I wouldn't do it, because before I had the boat the summer before. So this was the first year that I had a slip. Yeah. But I've had it for 2 years, or 3 years, whatever it is. But anyway, there was 1 year where I didn't. So usually a lot of times we'd go out with my brother. So Eric would come over, hook the boat up, take it out there, and always drag it back. You know, good thing brother didn't care. I'm sure he fucking hated it, but never said a word. It was just nice to have something to go out there and do together. So, but if that was miserable for me, I did not use it anywhere near as much.
Yeah. So is this like you got like a pontoon or like a?
He's got a pontoon. I've got like a little
runabout,
6 feet,
whatever. Yeah,
it's not a fishing boat. I'm not a fishing guy.
That's what I was going to ask. What do you do? Are you fishing, or are you out there on a fucking tube or jet skiing or some shit like that? Or
well, we've got the tube and that kind of stuff for like if the kids go with us, which they go less and less as they've gotten older. But Dixie and I don't go out there, and just the two of us go tubing. I mean, we just head out there, pop over into a cove, and just
sit around and drink a beer.
Yep. Well, don't drink any beer because you can't drink.
Oh yeah, you
can't
drink on a boat, can you? No. They won't let you do anything fun anymore.
No.
Shit.
No.
Have you seen those videos of people in the like early '80s when they made drinking and driving illegal, bitching about what's this country coming to if you can't even drink a beer on your way home from work? No. People were pissed off back in the day. God, I'll have to show them to you sometime. There's all kinds of funny fucking videos of news crews interviewing people saying, "What do you think about the new drunk driving laws?"
When did that go into effect?
It's been in our lifetime.
Yeah, interesting.
This is so funny. I vividly remember as a child, my grandfather, he had a swinging cup holder in his truck, and any given time we're going down the fucking road, me and him and my grandma or whatever, he's drinking a fucking wild turkey on the rocks in that fucking cup holder. It's just like, it was just every day. He was just drinking wild turkey.
That was Wednesday.
Yeah, that was a fucking Wednesday. Yeah, and sometimes there'd be 4 kids in the back of the truck, and he's still driving around fucking drinking wild turkey. Just like, I don't know, different times, I guess.
I mean, I can still remember, and like I said, that's interesting you say it, because I don't remember drinking and driving not being a thing, except for I can also vaguely remember where you could drive through a liquor store to get beer and you could buy a draft.
Yeah.
So I can remember, rolling away. It's like, oh, here's your draft here. Here's your 12 ounce in a plastic cup, and then you just roll on out. So, I'm assuming, I guess at that point it was not an issue to drink and drive. So
I mean, fuck, I don't know. Let's see. God, that can't be right. In 2000. Clinton's transportation appropriations bill required all states, to lower their blood alcohol content to 0.08. 1972, states began to pass DUI laws. All states came on board, over the next 10 years, looks like.
So I wonder what Kentucky was, or Ohio. Because I was, of course, born in 73, so it would have been before I was born. But
I'm not saying it wasn't illegal when my grandpa was doing it.
I was just curious if it wasn't illegal.
No, I'm sure.
Grandpa just didn't give a fuck.
He just didn't give a fuck. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. That's funny. I don't know. I remember all kinds of crazy shit, doing all kinds of crazy shit as a kid you can't do now. But hell, I rode all the way to Myrtle Beach laying in the back window of a fucking 77 Monte Carlo or some shit, Kid just lay up in the back dash.
I remember, you may have even been in the vehicle, but I can remember leaving a fraternity party.
With about 10 people in an S10 pickup truck? Yes. I think I was in that truck.
I think I was laying in the windshield up on the dash, just keeping my head straight down so that way they could still see.
Yeah, leaving the Delta barn, Yep, that was, if it's the same time, and I'm assuming it was, that was Chris Conley's S10 pickup truck.
There was a lot of people in that little
there was a lot
STM.
of people in that fucking thing. Yep. Anyway, all right. Well, I got nothing else of any real measure. Got anything good?
That's it, man. Just don't know how to end it. I'm just going to give that to you every time.
Fucking recurring theme here. All
right,
We'll
man,
see you next
later.
time. See you.
And just like that, another episode of Two Guys, Two Questions is in the books.
We laughed. We learned. Well, we mostly just laughed.
Yeah, and if you made it this far, congratulations. You now have random knowledge you never asked for.
You're welcome.
Don't forget to follow, subscribe, and leave a 5-star review. Or don't, but just know if you don't, we're bringing back the squeaky toys.
Oh, it's coming back either way.
Until next time, same two guys, two questions, and absolutely no idea what we're doing.
Perfect.